Welcome back to Boss Wizard Crypto. In a couple weeks, but today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and all the things about Bitcoin. Okay. You see these little arrows on here? I publish ideas, private ones, to my Discord members. This is just one of them on one of the charts. Only those guys can see them. But let's start naked, because who doesn't like to be naked? Let's talk about a few things first. Let's go to a blank space up here. Let's talk about what an impulse is. All right, impulse, when you're breaking down Bitcoin, you got to keep things simple. As simple as possible. Once you start getting into super complex stuff, I'm telling you, it's bullshit. It really is bullshit. Okay? Keep it simple. So let's talk about what an impulse is. It's a 5-wave move, right? Up, down, up, down, up. And it follows a certain set of rules. Okay, the third wave cannot be the shortest wave. The third wave must be an impulse. The third wave must extend beyond the end of the first wave. The second wave cannot exceed the start of the first wave. The fourth wave cannot exceed the end of one. I'm talking about big time frames, okay? Intraday stuff, these leveraged markets, doesn't matter. Okay, 4 goes into 1 all the time in those little small time frames. I'm talking about the big stuff here. Okay, weekly time frame bear, just gigantic impulses. Okay, no, 4 cannot go into 1 on these gigantic impulses. Stuff that occurs within daily candles, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, now that's an impulse in a nutshell. There's a couple of rules though. There's one bigger rule that kind of matters for Bitcoin. Okay, every impulse has at least, well, it's not a rule. The rule is you can't have more than 2 extensions. But every impulse usually has 1 extension. Okay, at least 1, and every impulse that has 2 also has 1. So nearly every impulse is extended. Of those that are extended, which is nearly all of them, they usually only have 1 extension. Okay. If you get 2 extensions, it's usually a third wave. So that being said, let alone a first wave, generally, I can't recall off the top of my head. I'm not saying it's illegal because it certainly can exist. I can't remember of all the price history that I have committed to this old brain of mine, any first waves offhand of any significance that had more than 1 extension. Okay. So, I mean, I say that because it lends towards probability, right? So just not to say it can't, but I've just personally never seen it. So for those of you who don't know what an extension is, all right, this would be a 5-wave move. Whoops. This would be a 5-wave move here, right? But you shouldn't just assume that that's over. You should assume, since so many impulses are extended, that you are getting an extension. Okay? So right? You go back and you count your waves. How far did you get so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That's not an impulse. 8, 9. Okay, that's an impulse. And that's even a truncated fifth. Let's not even get hairy on that one. Let's extend that a little bit further, all right? That is an impulse. That's an impulse with 1 extension. 5 is the same as 9, is the same as 13, is the same as 17, is the same as 21. They're all the same thing, all right? But the reason I bring this up is because, just like I said, I've never seen a first wave with more than one extension. At least I don't recall. Maybe I have seen one, but I don't recall it. Okay, it's not a thing that happens very often. I have never seen a first wave and a fifth wave extension. I don't think that's a thing, right? Because by virtue of the third wave that has to be the longest, you generally shouldn't do that. Now with this exponential stuff, like Bitcoin, I guess technically it is possible to have a first and fifth wave extension. I've never seen it before ever in my life. Okay. And I'm not going to throw all of my eggs into the first and fifth wave extension basket. Okay. Third wave, first and third. Okay. I might be all about that life. But not first and fifth. Okay. And it's important why I bring that up. Now that we see this structure, right? Here's a 9-wave structure, right? Now we can go back to the Bitcoin chart. Let's move this well out of the way here. Let's go back to the Bitcoin chart. And we can start counting the big rocks. So we got, whoops, that moved on me. It's weird. 1, 2, you got 5 in here, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a reason I'm going here instead of here, but you would get the same count anyway. 8, 9. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5 is the same as 9, is the same as 13, is the same as 21, right? I mentioned that already, right? So end stop, right? Now you have to seriously consider, because you now have one extension, and that would be in the first wave. At least thus far. Mostly due to lack of alternation. You have no alternation in this at all. At least you have an alternation of pattern, but you don't have true alternation in any of this count, right? So let me throw up a count right here, and then we'll play with it and talk about it. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Just throwing up this count. We could talk about all things. It meets all the rules, all right? 2 doesn't go beyond the end of 1, all right? Not even close. 3 is the log. It doesn't look like it because we're in log, okay? But 3 is definitely way longer, all right? Not the longest, but it's way longer, all right? If I turn off log, see where that comes up? That's way longer. So 3 is not the shortest. Okay, 3 extends beyond the end of 1. That's good. 4 does not go into the price territory of 1. That's good. Okay, no portion of 4. It's only the end of 4 that matters. Okay, but it doesn't matter. Regardless, no portion of wave 4 goes into the end of wave 1. All right. So that's another rule to bring up there. When people talk about, oh, the A wave of a 4 went into the 1. No, it's the end of the wave. The end of wave 4 cannot go into wave 1. Doesn't matter in this case, even the first wave didn't go into wave 1. Okay. But one of the issues here is that you lack alternation. All right. This is a zigzag. This is a triangle. That's not alternation. You have different patterns, I will say that, but that's not what alternation is. Okay, alternation is that one of the two corrections will make a new high. Okay. This one didn't make a new high. Okay, the closest you got is this B wave. It did not make a new high, and this one never even came close to making a new high. Okay. The B wave or the X wave needs to make a new high in order for you to have alternation, and it doesn't. So you don't have alternation, but you do have different patterns. Not every impulse has alternations. Okay, just means that most of them do. If alternation was a rule, then it wouldn't be a guideline. But of course, it doesn't give you a big warm and fuzzy if you don't get it. Regardless, we're working with what we're working with, and that's all we can do about it. Um, so that's one interpretation right there, is that it's all done, right? It's been done for a while, and that this is a big one, right? That's a big one. Where's my marker? It's a big one up here, and you're working on your two. I don't know how low it's going to go. I just made that part up. Doubt it goes that low. But something like into your previous four. Okay, somewhere in here. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, to put in a 2. Assuming that that count is accurate, right? Now that's one interpretation. It does a lot of good things. There's a lot of good things about this count. You have an extended first wave. Okay, here's your extended first wave right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Extended first wave. Okay, then you have your second wave, your third wave. Nothing in this third wave anywhere remotely to the size of any of this, right? The, the next time you get anything remotely to the size of this stuff is here and obviously here. Okay. The rest of everything that is, say, this big, right? This big of corrections, okay, is, well, here's one, okay, and this one's kind of the same size right here. All right, so notice those are all kind of the same size, right? Right here too. Here, here, all right? All these little circles are about the same size-ish, right? I'm not talking about exactly. I'm talking about ish. Pretty close to the same size, right? Whereas, like something like this being the smallest of anything that is not that small, okay, is bigger than this stuff, okay? You know, a little bit smaller than this, but it would be closer. This would be closer to this size than this size. Okay. This obviously is a big one. This whole thing's a big one. Okay, and now you're onto something that looks even bigger than anything you've ever done, which makes sense if it's a major correction to a 5-wave move up, right? Makes perfect sense that you would get something bigger than you've ever seen before. Okay, so that's one interpretation of it. You don't have any alternation here. You don't have any alternation no matter how you count this. Okay, which could lend towards, well, maybe what if you're just in a third wave extension, right? But the reason I bring that up is because if you come down to count this third wave here, okay, it has 2 extensions in it. So if I come down to, say, the daily, right here, and I just look at this third wave, right here. If you, a technique I always use instead of just throwing labels on this, you just count the big swings, right? You can see the bigger sized corrections in here, right? And you just start counting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Why did it disappear? There it is. Okay. 13. 13 is 2 extensions. Okay. Remember I talked about probability-wise, it would be weird for a first wave to have 2 extensions in it. Okay. A third wave, yeah, makes sense. It's very powerful. Okay. A first wave, not so much. Now this first wave is extended. Okay. And technically has 2 extensions in it. Okay, because this first wave is extended and this third wave is extended. So then back to back, you're going to get it again. You have to question yourself there, right? Difference being, this is an extended wave. Okay, this is an extension of a larger impulse, and this is not. So you would have to say, if you don't think this is accurate and it's topped, okay, then let me go to the weekly here. Then there's an alternate way to look at it. Okay, so you can go 1, 2, and this has to be 1, 2. Okay, then this is 1, 2, 1, 2. And then this is 1, 2. I'm not sure how I'd count that. Well, you would have to say that this was not a 5-wave move, which very much looks like a 5-wave move. But 2. That's how you'd have to do that. So you'd have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then this wouldn't be a thing, right? Lots of problems with this count. As far as like this is if you put Bitcoin in a vacuum. All right. You put Bitcoin in a vacuum cleaner with no other outside input, then sure, count it like this all day long. But it's not in a vacuum. All right. Like, you really have to think about what Bitcoin is, okay? Bitcoin really, well, I love trading it, okay? Bitcoin doesn't actually exist. I don't know. I don't know who out there needs to hear this, but Bitcoin doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. I know that's going to make some of you cry. Fear not, friend, because a box of tissues is not really all that expensive. They've gone up with inflation, but very affordable. And once you get your crying out and you realize what Bitcoin is, which is nothing, okay, then you could put the whole thing into perspective. Bitcoin exists in bits and bytes on some computers. It has value because people say it does, okay? Which isn't all that much different than fiat currency, right? I hear the argument some of you are making right now, screaming at your YouTube devices, with kind of a major difference. Governments have good faith and credit, and that's what runs fiat currency, right? It's worth something because we have all the countries out there have defenses and diplomacy that negotiate with one another to keep the value of their currency at a stable-ish price. Bitcoin doesn't have any of that, right? So let's talk about for a moment, let's say, some kind of bullshit happened. Some government started falling or whatever, right? You think people are going to use Bitcoin to transact? No, because there's not going to be any electricity. But let's say, well, you know what? There could be electricity. We could form a new nation and regulate it and live in harmony and start up those electric generators again. And then Bitcoin will be back. Not before there's another form of currency of transactional value. Okay, you can't take a Bitcoin and go buy a coffee with it. I know a lot of people just turned off the video there, but you need to hear it in order to put Bitcoin into perspective on what's likely about to happen to it. Okay? It's not real. So this 1-2-1-2-1-2 bullshit, it's not real. It's not going to happen, guys. Okay? I mean, let's put it really into perspective. From nothing to the top, I don't even know what number that is. Okay? My brain is not smart enough to figure out how many commas to put in this and what that number is. 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000%. That's not enough, right? That's the problem with these types of assets. You have 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000% move in a blink of an eye, a decade. Okay? In a decade. 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000% move. And you just want more. That's how bull runs always end. Always. You get this meteoric rise, and then it's just like, buy the motherfucking dip. No, it's gonna be over one day. Right? You have to realize that. One day it's gonna be over. It's gonna be done. And if 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000% move in a decade isn't enough for you, then you need to reevaluate your priorities. Okay? Most people got into Bitcoin. I'll tell you exactly where most people got into Bitcoin. Right there. That's where most people got into Bitcoin. The majority of people who've ever bought Bitcoin, I'm not talking about the largest holders of Bitcoin. Okay, the largest holders of Bitcoin got in like here. The most people, whether it was one sat or a whole Bitcoin or whatever it was, the most people got into Bitcoin right here. You think the market is going to be that willing to give it right back? We need some fear in this market. We haven't seen it yet. We need capitulation. We need people selling like you've never, like get rid of all the Bitcoins that's going to zero. Because until then, who's going to buy it? But there's the bullish count on the table. Okay. Your 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 to infinity. It just will never stop. Just 1 2 forever. Never going to top. Just 1 2 forever and ever and ever. With no appreciable pullback. Just forever. Unlimited supplies of dollars coming in. Despite heavy evidence to the contrary. Now, first of all, I've seen a few counts out there. Okay, I'm going to address this again. I've addressed it before. All right. There is no such thing. No such thing as a combination. That doesn't exist. There's some well-respected Elliottians out there that have counts down and their alternate count is a combination pattern. There's people out there, first of all, the rarest pattern to ever exist in Elliott lore is this right here. Okay? The most rare thing to ever happen, ever in the history of the Elliott wave theory, is the triple zigzag. I mean, if you're throwing all your money into that basket, you may want to reevaluate. Okay, but here and then you see this alternate right here. Like, well, if it comes down, okay, then yeah, it's going to come down to 8 or 10K, and it's going to be a double zigzag when it does it. What the fuck? That's not real. Okay? Whoever you are that needs to hear that, that's not real. That motherfucker right there is not real. There's no such thing as a combination. A W wave cannot be a combination. There, I said it. I didn't have to say it. It's in the book. Plain as day in the book. A combination pattern, a W wave, a Y wave, a Z wave must be simple. Has to be simple. Okay? So if you have this, all right, and then this comes down. Whoops. And this comes down and breaks this low. This can't be what you think it is. It's impossible. It's likely. The most simple thing of all. A freaking impulse. It's an impulse wave. It just lacks an extension. Because it's a corrective impulse. And a lot of corrective impulses lack extensions. This is an A wave. Okay, so to expect 3 waves down, you're going to be very surprised. Very, very, very surprised. Because when you come down, it's going to be in 5. You're going to think it's done right here. And you'll be like, yes, to the moon. Whoops. Because you're getting 5 back down, guys. 5 waves. That's the only thing it can be. You can't have a combination pattern. Read the book. Simple patterns. W, Y, Z. Simple, simple, simple. Cannot combine combinations. If you can combine combinations, there would be no point to any of this. It can't happen. Then you can just combine forever. Combination within a combination within a combination within a combination. Just combine forever and ever and ever. With no end ever. That's as absurd as the never-ending impulse. The 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. The combination with the combination is equally as absurd. Because we all know the shit ends. We all know the shit ends. And it ends after 3 or 5. Not combination, 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 combination. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. No. It ends. It always ends. So keep it simple. It's like a rant video is what this is. Okay? Now, from an all-time high, all right, you have 5 waves down. You have 5 waves down from an all-time high. And you have 3 waves up after 5 waves down. In the most simplest thing ever possible, what happens next? 5 more waves. 5 waves begins something or it ends something. Especially 5 waves after 5 waves. Okay? You have a low in place. You have a move up, a move down that does not break that low. A move up, a move down, a move up, and it's done. How many waves is that? 5. It ended something. You have it in the opposite direction. 5 waves. What does that mean? That this is the beginning of something. You got a pullback in 3 waves that did not break this high. What does that mean? It's the middle of something. We don't have to get into all this other bullshit about combinations within combinations and so on and so forth. This is it right here. The most simplest thing. This is, you look in the book, and this is what you see. 5 to end something, 5 to start something, 3 to be the middle of it, and 5 more to end it. And that will be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what's going to happen? You're going to get something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And you know what's going to happen here? People are going to be like, it's so bearish. It's so bearish. But it's the same thing over and over again. Then you had 5 to end something. 5 to begin something. No, so bearish. I can't believe it. Look, oh, I told you so. Look, I told you. Oh, we're going to $100. So bearish. Boom. Okay? It's literally that simple, guys. So now we just sit here and play it. Like, there's no way. Let's say that's 100% wrong. The most simplest thing on the planet is 100% wrong. Okay? And this starts impulsing. So we get a little pullback, and then it's just like, okay, here we go. Right? Boom, 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 boom. Right? Given all of the evidence, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that I'm buying that. No way. Way too risky. You have 5 down and 3 up, and you want me to buy it? Uh-uh. No way. I wouldn't buy it with your money. That's how I see it. We don't have to look at any of the other bullshit. Moving averages, indicators. None of that shit matters. None of it. Pure price action. Every single one of my videos. Pure, unadulterated, naked price action. In fact, I don't even have any clothes on right now. That's how dedicated I am to this naked chart. So let's zoom in. What do we got here? We have an ending, something ending here to a high in 5 waves. Keep it simple. You have something going up in 5 waves. And then you have something coming down in what appears to be 3 so far. Because if I were to count this, we're getting really small here. I'm already on the hourly. But that looks like something. That looks like 5 down and a pullback. Okay, so you can have your 1, 2, 1, 2. And then I can see a 3, a 4, and a 5. You would have to truncate. Because that's just way too big to be part of this too. Okay, this whole thing. You could say 4 and 5. Okay, with a truncated 5th. Not that doesn't bode confidence. I understand that, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a zigzag to a triangle combination right there in the 4. That's what can combine. Simple things. That's a good thing to talk about, actually. Simple things right here, combination pattern. Zigzag, some small zigzag, triangle, combination pattern. Okay? Zigzag, X, A, B, C, D, E. Right there. Simple patterns. A zigzag to a triangle combination. 4, brief 5th. Makes sense. And then you have this reaction. So you're working on your second wave, if that's the case, right? So that means this is something, this is working on something. You'll get something like this, okay, and that's going to be your second wave. So that'll be a 1 and a 2, and then whoop. And that's basically what I'm looking for here. Okay, and give you a nice little head and shoulders pattern too. Look at that. Shwink, shwink, shwink. Head and shoulders that shit. And dump it. So that's Bitcoin on every time frame. Oh, I didn't talk about the Bitcoin ETF. Oh, how could I forget? Bitcoin ETF means nothing. Okay? It means absolutely nothing. In fact, it's worse for Bitcoin. Like, talk about what all the Bitcoin maxis out there are talking about decentralization, right? The whole thing that's great about Bitcoin is it's decentralized. Government off of our money. This is the people's money, it's Bitcoin. And then what's the first thing that the people want? Centralization. You've now taken a decentralized currency in quotation marks, because nobody uses it as currency, and centralized it. You've centralized it, regulated it. It's an institutional investment. Why do you want that? This is the people's money. By the way, institutions can already buy Bitcoin. Cheaper. Just go buy it on an exchange. An ETF does not make it more accessible for a company to buy Bitcoin. You can buy it, right? It used to be that all these institutions have access to stuff that us retail folks don't have access to. And now all of a sudden it's flipped. Now retail has open access to Bitcoin, but institutions can't. How absurd is that? Like, really let that sink in and settle on how absurd of an argument that is. Of course institutions can buy Bitcoin this whole time. And if that's not enough, a Bitcoin mutual fund has existed for like 2.5 years. What's the difference between an ETF and a mutual fund? I'll give you a clue. Almost nothing. Almost nothing is the difference between the two, except that you can buy an ETF directly on an exchange. That is the difference. That's what an ETF is. That's the only difference. With a mutual fund, you have to go through a broker. That's it. It's the only difference between the two. Otherwise, they are mirror images of each other, mutual funds and ETFs. So all this hype and hopium and this buying, for what? All these people on the crypto X, I guess they call it now, people with their Twitters and their Facebooks. Like, what now? Now what? Absolutely nothing's happened, right? Bitcoin's been in this range right here. Bitcoin's been in this range, just kind of marking it off, for since the beginning of December. So a month and a half now, Bitcoin's been in this range. In that time period, the Bitcoin ETFs come out and given you a deviation over the range over like a 2-day period, and then that's it. You're right back into the range, and and bouncing on the midpoint. Right? And the next thing to happen is you get a deviation above the midpoint. So you got a deviation above the high. You get a deviation above the midpoint, and then flush. So deviation, deviation. Oh, what is that? Oh, shit. Another freaking Head and Shoulders. Goodness gracious. Right? What is your Bitcoin? Go buy the Bitcoin ETF then. It's here. Go buy it. If all y'all out there are in love with it so much, it's great. Go buy it. It was promised, right? It was the big thing that was promised was this Bitcoin ETF. Just like the last big thing that was promised was the Coinbase IPO. Bullish for Bitcoin, the Coinbase IPO. What happened? Dump. Bitcoin futures, CME futures, back in 2017ish or whatever it was. Bullish. No, it set off a freaking 80% dump. None of this shit means nothing. It's called the news. Okay? The news doesn't do anything. Biggest news for Bitcoin people have been talking about for, I don't know, years? Is this Bitcoin ETF, right? It's here. The day is here. It's 3, 4 years in the making, whatever it is. The day hath arrived. And it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just in the range still. Why? Because Bitcoin doesn't care about the news. No market does. And if you bought it, guess what? You're kind of screwed right now. So that's where we stand. That's the corns. But you have to put everything in perspective too, right? Let's look at the Dow for a second. I've had other videos on this, but let's pull up the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Do I have this wrong thing on here? What's going on here? Hold on. I lost my Dow. So I brought this. I had a video on this a month or two ago. All right. We have this three-wave move up. We made a new all-time high. How did we do it? In 3 waves. So you're telling me, and there's no way, no reasonable rate right now to make this bullish, by the way. Okay? You could go, instead of ABC, you can go 1, 2, 1, 2, but this second wave is absurd. Okay, when it's absurd like that, it's probably a B wave. Just throwing it out there. If it looks fucked up, it's probably a B wave. Probably a B wave. Which means that whole thing is probably a B wave. Okay? So let's say this happens, right? And you get this 5 down in the Dow. Big dump down. You think Bitcoin's shooting to the moon right now? The stock market coming down? They're not 100% correlated, but they follow the same overall trends. That at least they have. We only have a. You have to be a believer that Bitcoin is about to delink itself from the stock market, as far as where the overall trend goes. We're going to decouple, and Bitcoin is going to be off on its own on an island. That's what you have to be a believer of to buy Bitcoin right now. I mean, I personally choose that if the stock market's going to go on a big tear to the downside, then Bitcoin will as well. That seems like a reasonable expectation, right? A speculative asset dropping with securities, that makes perfect sense. What doesn't make perfect sense is that, well, yeah, this time's different. Yeah, it's going to be different this time. Bitcoin's going to decouple. It's going to go to the moon. Yeah, Dow can go to zero. Nobody cares. Yeah, whenever your analysis is built on hopium, it's a powerful drug, by the way, hopium. Real powerful drug. But I guess we'll see, right? Guess we'll see how this pans out. Looks like we already have a little change of character here. We broke this low. This one's next here, and then cookies start crumbling as we go. And oh, how do we finish this? Looks like 5 waves to me. To put labels on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 of them. Pew, pew. Pretty crazy. That's where we stand. But I mean, feel welcome. Get onto the Bitcoin hype train. Go buy yourself an ETF for like double, triple, quadruple the fees, because that's great. It's great for Bitcoin. Um, Pretty sure this is channeled, like ran hard into that channel. Let's see what we got here. Boom. Smack dab right into that channel. Whew. It's quite the reaction there. 3-wave moves, by the way, are contained by parallel lines. That's why I bring that up. Impulses break those channels, okay, which would mean, okay, let's just say, for instance, that this topped, right? You do the same thing in reverse. Right, to find, because it's like 3-wave move, right? So when you get 5 down, you'd be looking somewhere near the end of that channel, because 3-wave moves are contained by parallel lines. And it just depends how long, all this stuff played out. It's a downward slanting line, so if you last too long, the price just gets lower and lower and lower. Potentially price, right? It doesn't have to touch that line. The line doesn't mean anything other than a containment mechanism. The line just tells you something. It's not a freaking trade entry. It just tells you something, i.e. that if the channel breaks significantly, then it's likely not what you think it is. Right? That's what channels are for. Everybody looking for a magical line to buy and sell. There's no magical line to buy and sell. All right? It doesn't exist. All you have is the wave 2 rule. But with this one right here, right? If we would break this channel convincingly, because right now you're saying, okay, A, B, C. Boom. Dunzo, right? If we were to break this channel convincingly, find some support and go, that is not what you think it is. It's not ABC. That's 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's what the channel tells you. But until then, it is fully contained by parallel lines. And pretty much kind of max that thing out. So we'll see how this cookie crumbles. But it's 2 5-wave moves, which is what a zigzag is. You got 1. Whoops, I didn't draw that far enough. Sorry. This is an extended first. 1, 2, 3, triangle, 4, 5. Okay, that's your A wave. A, B, C for a flat. That's your B wave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's your C wave. Okay, with a third wave extension in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for a total of 9 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my goodness gracious. The same thing happens over and over and over again. Wavecounts.com, friends. Wavecounts.com. For monthly memberships, annual memberships, lifetime memberships, free trial for 30 days. Try the monthly out. You can ask all the questions you want in the Discord. It's for you guys. Discuss at will. Ask me questions in there. Schedule one-on-ones with whoever you want. With me, you can talk to other people that you like their analysis within the Discord. Okay, it's all there available for y'all. Website's populated with my analysis, my charts. Get access to my charts. All of them. Save them as your own. Keep them forever. Until next time, it's your hour-long talk about the Bitcoins. We'll see ya.